We're joined once again by our movie man, Bill Timoney, here to discuss Hollywood's response to the Colorado shootings during the Batman movie. Bill, what is the latest?
Well, the latest is that Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper announced that, the state has a fund, the Colorado First Community Foundation, and they distribute monies to various charities and organizations throughout the state, and they're going to set aside a substantial amount of those funds for the victims of the shooting. So Warner Brothers CEO Barry Myers has announced that they've spoken to the governor and they're going to make a contribution to that fund.
Well, because you're hearing about so many of these victims without insurance or simply medical bills that are piling up. Going back to Warner Brothers, aside from this financial, how else are they responding to the tragedy?
Well, I certainly think they did the right thing. They canceled several of the premiere screenings around like in Paris and several other parts of the world. They've been very careful about downplaying the significance of the first weekend's gross, which actually set a box office record. The first 3 days of the film's release, they grossed $160 million, which set a record all time for a film that was not a 3D film. So they have not been bragging like you normally would do. They won't announce the exact figure they're going to donate into the Colorado Fund, but they did say that it would be substantial. And CEO Myers also is asking everybody who works for Warner Brothers to contribute to that fund as well.
Right, the movie The Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
It's clearly a dark movie.
Yeah.
Is Hollywood motivating people to extreme violence?
It's a great question. It's a question that is asked any time a violent film is out or that there is some act of violence committed in our country, in our society, and it's by somebody who says they watch such and such movies.
Like Natural Born Killers?
Well, Natural Born Killers is in fact the precedent. Although I should say, there's always been violence in film. There's always been violence in storytelling. You go back to the sacred scrolls of so many peoples, and they're terribly, terribly, horribly violent. So violence in our storytelling has always been there. Movies have always been criticized since the silent era for that.
Is it the silent era? Really?
Sure. There's some pretty violent films for their time. They look silly now. In fact, the Warner Brothers films of the early sound era were dedicated to telling real stories about the Depression and the struggles of people who might fall into crime and stuff. So yeah, Jimmy Cagney, Humphrey Bogart was always shooting up people and getting shot dead.
I mean, sometimes I watch the movies. You can watch the news and I'll think to myself, boy, this could be giving some people who are out there some ideas.
Right.
Yet this is an isolated incident.
It is. It's a very compelling one. It's such terrific movie making, and it's easy to, you're supposed to get caught up in something while you're in the cinema. You're right on a roller coaster ride.
What is it? The suspension of disbelief.
The suspension of disbelief. That means you have disbelief until you walk into the cinema, you suspend it, you have fun, then you come back outside and you stop suspending it. The problem when people who are unbalanced, unstable, whatever you want to say, commit crimes, those crimes are horrible. I would say they're unimaginable, but clearly they imagine it. Does the product of Hollywood help them imagine that? That's what everybody is debating now.
All right, so where do you think this debate then is going to go?
Well, I think the debate will go exactly where it went with Natural Born Killers in 1994. That
so
film,
refresh us on that.
Sure, it was Oliver Stone directed it. A young Quentin Tarantino was the original screenwriter on it. Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis play a young couple who take a lot of drugs and go on a horrible killing spree. It's quite frenetic. It's very critical of the media. Robert Downey Jr. plays an Australian sort of gotcha journalist who follows their story, and actually the media makes these killers heroes. Here's the deal. Somebody got killed as a result of two young people seeing the movie, taking drugs, and going out and emulating what they saw in the movie. And somebody else was injured, terribly injured by the same young couple. That person was a friend of the author John Grisham, who wrote The Firm and Pelican Brief and all that stuff. With Grisham's help, this individual brought a suit against Warner Brothers, ironically enough, the same studio, a suit saying that your movie caused these people to hurt me. They shot her, she became a quadriplegic. The first suit was brought on with the idea of product liability. You can't make a product that you know is going to hurt somebody. So that idea of product liability was sort of innovatively applied to this case, saying Warner Brothers should have known their product would hurt somebody. The case was thrown out. Upon appeal, it was overturned. So a third trial, which unfortunately the woman died before the third trial happened, and then it was dismissed again, always on Warner Brothers' First Amendment rights. This is freedom of speech. So I think that's where this debate, and unfortunately there are people like Mr. Rush Limbaugh who's out there saying it's Warner Brothers' fault that all these people got killed. I think it will end up in the same place.
Final thought, is
Sure.
this going to help or hurt Batman movie? 10 seconds.
Well, you got some young mothers who are concerned about bringing their little kids to the movie this weekend. But on the other hand, as we know from the news, there was a 6-year-old who was at the movie. There was a 3-month-old who was at the movie. I don't think it's going to hurt it at all.
All right, Bill Timoney, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right.